As they say in hockey, let's do that hockey.
Play a full 60 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep it simple.
Get pucks deep, putting the puck deep.
Put pucks in deep.
We got to keep it simple and just get pucks going forward.
Getting into the forecheck.
We got to keep playing aggressive.
Trying to take away their time and space.
We're focused on tonight. We just got to stick to our game.
Florida squashed the Chinese Taipei Little League dynasty. College football is back, but Florida State is not. But you know what else is back? It's the Fifth Liners podcast and episode 7, along with George Bannister, Nick Kozan, and Matt Leonardo. I'm Casey Ditzel. And gentlemen, a lot to cover. An exciting episode. We're going to first get to the NHL news, and then we're going to throw it around with some fantasy stuff with a cap-compliant roster of our favorite players, and then our jersey rankings. And everybody, unfortunately, has to listen to Matt's terrible hot takes throughout that. But we'll sling it around the circle here, gents. What's been going on in the last couple of weeks since we last talked?
Yeah, not much here. Just moving along in August. It's starting to feel like hockey season with the weather going down and the sun going down by 8 o'clock now, but just looking forward to another great season of hockey.
Fall season fully underway for some of those college broadcasters. Hi, hello. Other than that, like Matt said, just trying to get to the hockey season coming up pretty soon for us, Casey, end of September, beginning of October.
Yeah, getting my fantasy hockey roster ready to go for the upcoming draft we have going on. Just spending some time in different states, just enjoying the summer while we still can.
Like a big move for you that you just went on back in grad school, and I'll see you in the classroom as we get studious here coming up.
Oh yeah, we're so back.
George, back in the booth. I got 1 week until my debut coming up Friday night for women's soccer. How's it been going, getting back into the swing of things here?
Tough transition first couple of games, but I think I found my stride. Picking it up big time this week. I have 6 games this coming up this week. So coming in hot, as they say.
I'm back in Potsdam here, and unfortunately having to fend for myself and realizing how hopeless I am without my girlfriend who graduated last year and is no longer here to take care of me. I got to do my own laundry, and I got to learn how to cook coming up. So stay tuned on whether or not I make it to college hockey season. I might be in shambles crying on the side of the road somewhere by then, but hopefully the podcast is here to keep me rolling. The Olympics are done and over. Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, I think, maybe put on the greatest performance of the decade to hype up LA. And Snoop Dogg was maybe the best part about the Olympics, but the foreshadowing there that went so underrated of the whole time foreshadowing the upcoming LA games that really went huge on the closing ceremonies. Guys, if you could broadcast any sport, what Olympic event are you going for broadcasting?
I think to start, I'm a huge fan of the Winter Olympics personally over the summer. I know it was really fun to watch some of the summer games, but as a big hockey fan and just the uniqueness of a lot of those winter sports, I think that's something that appeals to me. And the one, that I really appeal to is the luge. I think if I could actually do it, I would 100% be an Olympic athlete in that sport. I think the idea of going feet first, sliding down an ice sheet, going about 110 miles an hour just is unbelievably thrilling. So the ability to watch that and try and announce that as best as I can would be pretty interesting.
That's psychopathic right there. I love it. You would just jump in the luge and do it. I'll play along with summer because that's the one that they were hyping up. With the Summer Olympics with LA picking up softball, it's probably going to be a tie between softball and field hockey. I love field hockey. I'm one of those guys that give me the Olympic sports. I'll do it. I'll dominate. But for winter, when we were talking a little bit about this off the air, give me curling. I know everybody's going to go hockey. No. Give me curling. Curling. You need to have that It's like bocce on ice. You got to have that perfect spin on the rock. It's all about the planning, the math, and everything. I suck at math, so watching them deliver that rock perfectly and splitting everything else, give it to me, man. I love it.
Yeah, when I'm gonna piggyback on the Summer Olympics. The first thing that I turned on when I watched the Summer Olympics was water polo. Not being an avid swimmer myself, I don't understand how they do it. I'd be amazed the entire time. So I gotta stick with that. I think it's amazing to see kind of like what they do, and honestly them wrestling each other in the pool is kind of crazy in itself while they're trying to score, but no, that's got to be it for me.
Nick just absolutely nabbed mine. It's totally water polo. I actually played water polo for 2 years in middle school because our varsity or our club swim team during the off season in the summer had a water polo tournament in August that we trained for from like May to the tournament in August. So the middle schoolers were allowed to train with the varsity guys, and we played water polo to stay in shape all summer. But how about Kenny Albert calling the power play goal in water polo? That just had me absolutely juicing for hockey coming up. And right on cue, in the last week and a half, the hockey world has been upside down, back reversed, and then punched in the throat a few times, depending on what fan base you're a fan of. It started in Toronto as Austin Matthews now takes the captaincy, the 26th captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and handed over by John Tavares in an all-class transition there. Nick, Matt's trying to steal your swagger here wearing a Maple Leafs shirt, even though he's a San Jose Sharks fan. You are a Maple Leafs fan. We'll start
Yep.
there. Your thoughts on Matthews becoming the captain?
Yeah, no, I love it. And honestly, the way that Tavares handed it off was all class. Like that's his hometown team. He dreamt of playing for the Leafs, and to be able to get that chance, be the captain of the team, he realized the team needed a new direction. And I think it's a great direction to go. Matthews coming off of a newish extension. I know it's only 4 years, but it's a great move, something needed to give uh, with all the first round exits after having historic regular season performances. I think it's a great move. And I mean, Matthews, if you ever hear him talk or with his teammates mic'd up for any reason, he is that uh, captain material. So I think it's a great move. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens this upcoming season.
Yeah, Nick mentioned it too in terms of a need for change, right? They fire Kyle Dubas and they fire Sheldon Keefe in the last few years, and still it's the same thing every single year of they're not getting where they need to be. And I understand that getting to the playoffs is already difficult enough, but if you got a core that's making it 8 straight seasons and you're not getting past the second round at all, there's a huge problem there. And I don't think it was anything to do per se with John Tavares, but when you think of the Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews is the face of that franchise. He deserves that captaincy, and I think he's going to do a great job with it.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things surprising, right? First, if I'm not mistaken, the first American ever to be the captain of the Maple Leafs. But the more important thing I think here is John Tavares doing what a real captain should do, right? Like once the organization comes up to you and is like, "Hey, we're thinking about going in a new direction. We're going to name Austin Matthews the captain." By all accounts, he was like, "All right, let's go. Let's do this." At that event, he was very complimentary of Austin Matthews and handing off that torch. Take note, other captains out there, not just professional, but also, high school, whatever. You want to do the right thing, step aside when it's time.
Patrick Laine finally has closure on his whole situation. Time in the player assistance program, requested a trade, but then had to wait to get cleared. All the mental health problems that he's been very vocal about and just started a campaign for, which is awesome to see. Now doing much better, obviously, as he's been cleared and now gets the trade he wanted. He's traded to Montreal, one of the teams that was not on his no move list, so he didn't even have to waive his rights to go there. He gets traded for a 2026, actually with a 2026 second round. So Line and a second round pick, and Columbus gets back defenseman Jordan Harris. The big thing for Columbus, Line major contract at $8.7 million per year, still 2 years remaining on that. Columbus has no retention on that, so they get Harris on a pretty much $0 deal, and they free up that $8.7 million. George, in your opinion, who wins this trade with Montreal absolutely stacking up potentially? We haven't seen the firepower that Line brings in a couple of seasons, but a guy that easily could go for 40 goals if he fires it up, and now playing alongside the star power Montreal has up top. Columbus gets rid of a guy who didn't want to be there. Don Waddell coming in saying, if you don't want to be a Columbus Blue Jacket, we don't want you. We want guys that want to be here, want to rep Columbus. Now they have an opportunity to bring $8 million of someone else on a big deal, either at the trade deadline or coming up in the upcoming free agency as they stack new picks. Who wins this trade?
Well, you just nailed it there at the very end. Columbus freeing up $8.7 million that they could use throughout the season to kind of plug in a gap there. I think Columbus wins this trade, right? People are probably going to look at me like I have 17 heads. Oh, but Montreal is stacking everything up. Plus they get a second round pick. Defenseman Jordan Harris, don't sleep on him, right? Line finished his program, wanted a fresh start, and nobody can blame him. The question becomes for Montreal, are they going to have a secondary big money player go back in the player assistance pool, much like Carey Price did, right? Moreover, and Nick will probably touch upon this as well, you could have all the firepower up front. If you have no defense and goaltending, what's that going to do for you?
It just absolutely caught an unreal stray on that one.
Yeah, I have a rebuttal as far as goaltending goes. I mean, Caden Primo or Montembeault, Caden Primo duo is underrated. Caden Primo doesn't have much of an NHL experience under his belt. Dan Montembeault, he's actually good. I think he's great. I think he's gonna fit well with that team as he gets adjusted. I know he hasn't been in the system for very long. Like you said, George, the firepower up top, that's hard to shy away from. With Slavkovsky starting to get going, Suzuki at the end of the season, he was phenomenal. And Cole Caulfield, if that top six stays healthy, I'm a tiny bit worried as a Leafs fan, just being in the same division as them, because that's going to be a tight race for the playoff, that wild card spot. I think you're going to see Montreal making a big step. I don't think they're going to make that last wild card spot, but they're going to make a huge jump than what they did these past few seasons, just starting their rebuild.
Plus 5,700 are the odds for the Montreal Canadiens to win the division, and the Buffalo Sabres are just about half that, a team that I think has no chance this year compared to Montreal, who has the upside. We see teams go worst to first. Vancouver did just about that last season. Montreal could be there. And Matt, as a fake Leafs fan, where does that put you in the Atlantic Division?
I think it's going to be the same old from last year. I think the top four in the Atlantic are really tough to beat, even with the steps that, maybe Boston or Tampa have taken in the backside. You're still going to have to go through Florida and Toronto at the top of that division. And the team that I really think out of that bottom four that really could make that push is probably Detroit, in my opinion. I think they've really positioned themselves to give some of their young core an opportunity to play substantial minutes. And that top nine, when adding Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane, that's a scary group at that point. We talk about the excitement of Montreal's top nine. I think the two-way play of the top nine that you're seeing in Detroit with guys like Andrew Kopp and that first line of DeBrincat, Larkin, Raymond, for me, I think Detroit's kind of that team that might make that push in the Atlantic. But I think overall that the top four teams there are probably the ones we see coming in April.
Nashville Predators had their picture-perfect offseason shaken up big time as their 22-year-old star goaltending prospect, Yaroslav Askarov, told the team he would not report to the AHL and he would not come to camp if that was a possibility, requesting a trade out of Nashville. That became a reality as Askarov gets sent to apparently Matt's second favorite team tonight, the San Jose Sharks. Barry Trotz not taking anything. You remember back to July 1st when this became probably a reality as they signed Saros to an 8-year, $8 million and change dollar deal. Askarov was supposed to be a potential starter coming up amid trade rumors with Saros. They lock him in. Now Askarov says he no longer wants to be there. He'll be a San Jose Shark. Matt, your thoughts on that?
I mean, as a Sharks fan, how can I not be excited? I think Askarov is one of, if not the best goalie prospect currently in the NHL. I think he's had an unbelievable track record in the AHL as a 22-year-old. And you look at the pieces that the Sharks moved to get him, it's mostly the stuff that, looking back at that Tomas Hertl trade in the middle of the season. So obviously, Hertl's somebody who you want to be part of your core. But in terms of the age and the timeline of the Sharks, I don't think he really fits. So being able to flip that for a prospect who could potentially be that goalie of the future that the Sharks probably haven't had since, gosh, maybe Evgeny Nabokov, I think it's a great opportunity for San Jose to continue to build. I think David Edstrom is a pretty good piece to get if you're Nashville. But looking at the Sharks, Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini, Quentin Musty, that's 1, 2, 3 up the middle. I think Edstrom is a good two-way player that probably didn't fit in that lineup moving forward. So as a Sharks fan, I'm absolutely stoked about this.
Beniers signs an extension, 7 years times $7.14 million AAV. An extensive run for a guy who didn't necessarily have that dollar value this year, but for Seattle, that's their top prospect coming up. Shane Wright, coming from the AHL, hopefully can follow in his steps, but just 37 points in 77 games for Beniers last season. They hope to see him continue to extend. Gabe Landeskog targeting a return, trying to go for the beginning of the season. That doesn't do much for the Colorado Avalanche. We are just about T-minus 1 month here until opening night of the preseason. Camp's going to start 1 or 2 weeks before that, and the Colorado Avalanche currently do not have a full roster. They are missing 2 spots in having a starting lineup right now on the forward core and have absolutely no cap space to work with. George, Colorado, what are they going to do?
They're in trouble as they sit right now. They only have $2.06 million in cap space, and that's eliminating the $7 million of Gabriel Landeskog and $6.125 of Valerie Nichushkin. You need to be cap compliant by 3 days before the opening season. There's no way that's going to happen if either one of those two players comes back. Either you're scrambling and you're pulling a whole bunch of moves to send people down to the AHL level, or you're going to eat something. And right now, Colorado looks like it's going to eat something, but who knows what's going to happen there? It's been a sticky situation throughout, and then with that, for me, it was a surprise announcement. I don't know about you guys, but to me, it was like, oh, well, that's a interesting development. You get a lefty shooty left winger in Landeskog. Could their offense use it? Absolutely. Is it going to help any with what they're trying to do? I don't know. It's perplexing, to say the best.
More importantly is the return of their captain, and a guy they desperately have missed, and vocally have said that, especially with the issues Nichushkin has had and the personal problems they've had in that locker room since he's gone out. So you wonder how much that can help, but a lot to be done here, and the Avalanche will most definitely be in the news coming up over the next couple of weeks as we get set for preseason. The San Jose Sharks continue to break barriers, and it was a trade for Cody Ceci that really started a spiral effect that decimated the Edmonton Oilers, who were my early pick to win the Stanley Cup. And somebody on this call called that a layup pick a few episodes ago, and now that seems to be coming a little more distant. But right after Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway were both given offer sheets by the St. Louis Blues, it looked like Edmonton trading Ceci was trying to clear some cap to get one or at least both of them. Evander Kane likely to go on LTIR, could miss the entire season, maybe late into the season or at least to the playoffs. And with that, they had enough cap to sign Broberg and Holloway if they wanted to. They don't sign either of them. St. Louis Blues stack up some very good young talent. One great defenseman that was a star in the playoffs. Maybe a little bit of recency bias there, but Broberg's an outstanding player coming up for the future that obviously Edmonton is going to miss. And now you look at who they've lost in the offseason, it's pretty much 4 of their top 6 defensemen that are no longer on the team, on top of Dylan Holloway, who is a great skating forward, a guy who can play hard minutes on a forechecking line, can play PK time, and also was on a low dollar value. Now gone, and next year they still have to think forward to Leon Draisaitl. 2 years from now, it's Connor McDavid that are going to be monster deals. So obviously, that's on the forefront of why they don't bring it back. But guys, how big is this impact going to be potentially towards Edmonton's hopeful return to the Stanley Cup upcoming?
Well, as they sit right now, without Evander Kane officially on LTIR, they're under $1 million of cap space, right? The big thing was Broberg officially in the trade. You know, it's just one of those things that was kind of head scratching to me because, as you mentioned, you know, that decor should have been kind of kept together a lot more, or had the foresight to keep that decor together. And it's like, what are we doing here? You go from, as you mentioned, Casey, you go from, hey, you guys are projected to be the winners next year to, this is interesting. How's that going to all shake out?
Yeah, and I think the big thing here that you question is if that was their plan moving forward, and this is kind of their window, like there's, if you know, a year left of Draisaitl, 2 left of McDavid, this is the time they're going for the cup. I find it interesting that they make moves on the front end when that's been their strong suit the entire time, right? I love the signings of Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson, don't get me wrong, but when you've got, you know, question marks at 4 of your 6 D spots, is it really worth it to sign 30-year-old wingers that, you know, you've got plenty of guys who are willing and able to put the puck in the net on that team? I think they definitely could have maybe used their money elsewhere in order to kind of position themselves a little better. But if you're talking about windows, this is it. I saw a stat that I think Connor McDavid is the youngest forward on that team at 27 years old. So if you're looking at a team that's going for it all right now with, you know, Stuart Skinner on a small deal and McDavid and Draisaitl, like the band is still kind of together for this last year or two, like this is it. So I'm excited to see kind of what else they're able to do in order to position that team for another run.
Yeah, going off of that, Stan Bowman has his work cut out for him. Welcome back to the NHL, courtesy of the Oilers. But I thought I was scratching my head at the fact that Broberg wasn't playing a majority of the playoffs, and they had Desharnais back there, just being a pylon. But
Remember,
no,
Desharnais not there anymore too. That's a guy they used.
Yeah,
now they've
another
lost
one,
both
yeah.
of them. That's one of the 4.
Yeah, that one's not as big of a loss in my opinion, but yeah, I mean, that goes to show that they're focused on the offense. And I mean, Stan Bowman's gonna have to come up with something to get that D core intact and quick.
All right, that does it for the NHL news for now. And we'll be back every week, once a week, starting next week. So a lot of content coming and hopefully a lot of news. But now it's time to have some fun here as we close off the summer finally, and snaps coming as hockey season is closing in. We're just about in the month of September, and that gives me a lot of happiness internally. Here's the situation. We're going to go through rosters that we have created as couch general managers. Each roster must be cap compliant and follow the following rules. Going off of current 2024-25 salaries, and I got absolutely bamboozled by a couple of people that are laughing right now on the rules that new contracts had to be signed. So my favorite player at the value of $995,000, Seth Jarvis, was excavated because half of the people think he's worth $25 million for 1 year, and the bridge deal was vetoed. So you had to have players that are currently on active contracts. 2024-25 salary is $88 million is the salary cap for the upcoming year. Every team has to have a maximum of 3 rookie entry-level contracts, and they have to be realistic, meaning that it could not include players from the same draft year and round. For example, Macklin Celebrini and Artem Levshinov both went as 2024 first rounders. You can't have 2 players from the same year and round. You could have 2 first rounders from, say, Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini if you wanted, but not 2 from the same year and round. A minimum of 3 contracts that were signed this offseason. So we had to go out into the free agency pool and sign some new deals. 23 roster spots are included in the 88 million. That's 14 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goalies. And we will go through here, starting with the forward core. We're going to break down one line at a time, go around the circle. I'm going to start so that I get all the glory. Then I'll let George go because he's my next favorite right now. Nick can light him up after that, and then everyone's going to tell Matt why his roster stinks. I'll give him a little bit of credit. It was his idea to do this. So snaps to Matt for coming up with a great show idea to end off the summer. But let's get right into it here. For me, the top line, probably a common one, at least on the left wing. Some might have him on the second line. And I guess we'll go through a little bit of strategy here as we're walking through it. So for me, I went through the top 50 goal scorers in the NHL, top 50 point scorers in the NHL. I looked at face-off percentage guys in the top 20 and guys in the top 25 of plus-minus rating. A lot of that is a stat that a lot of people don't like. I think it's pretty interesting to look at guys on bad teams that have good plus-minus ratings. But for me, on the top line, my left wing, no surprise, is Zach Hyman, a guy that I like to model myself off if anybody follows my hockey highlights on Twitter. An absolute champion of the garbage goal, but he gets it done. Hyman this season, top 5 in goals, finishing 3rd in the NHL. He was also 5th in the NHL in plus minus, top 30 in the NHL in overall total points, and also comes in with a cap hit of just 5.5 million. So not really doing any damage there, and I'm getting a top-level scorer. My top-line center is going to be JT Miller, a guy I had in fantasy this year, and I grew to love exceptionally. Miller is among, if not the best, all-around players in the NHL, in my opinion. 19th overall in the NHL in goals scored, 9th in the NHL in total points, also 20th in face-off percentage, 12th in the league in plus-minus rating. So he hits all those categories I was looking for. Also can play on the penalty kill and can lead the power play. So a great guy to have centering my top line. And Matthew Tkachuk on my right wing. I got to give shouts to Brady Tkachuk, who I had in my first rendition of 3. This is a compilation of my best of the best. Unfortunately, I could not get the salary cap to work after the rules were swindled 5 times to screw me out of having my favorite player in the league. But I went with his brother. Originally, I had Brady as my captain on the left wing, Matthew on the right wing. I will settle to have Matthew Tkachuk as my right winger, a Stanley Cup champion, over a point per game in the regular season and just about a point per game in the postseason. Top 20 in the NHL in total points, and an elite power play weapon, as obviously shown throughout that run, a great leader in the room. So Hyman, Miller, and Tkachuk round out my top line.
So JT Miller, looking at this through the lens of a Rangers fan, JT Miller is not a top line guy. He's not a top line guy. He's maybe second or third, 2C or 3C. There were some grumblings back a year or so ago for some Rangers fans to bring back JT Miller, and by and large, everyone said no, don't do it, don't do it.
Can't
But
believe I nominated George as number 2 right now.
if you're looking for a good center and you want to overpay someone at center, yeah, JT Miller's good.
Obviously, you did not listen to the stats I just fired off.
Hey,
I will give it
he's
to you.
watching 2017
He
JT
does
Miller.
play as the second center on Vancouver, so that is not
no,
incorrect. But
well, I
I
mean,
have faith in him as a
yeah,
captain of my team.
he's behind Peterson. You have him as the captain as well. That's
I
interesting.
didn't say the captain. I said a captain.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's right. Kachuk is your captain. Right.
No, Kachuk is not. Brady Kachuk would have been, but he did not make the cut. He had to get traded away due to salary cap cuts in the offseason, unfortunately. You're going to like my captain, I think.
Maybe. But that's what I'll say. I'm not a fan of JT Miller being in a top line and being your biggest earning center. If we'll just leave it at that. And I'm not just looking at 2017. It's an overall picture, right? Like I know the player. I know what he does in the community, right? Followed him along with the players that have been traded away, like Ryan McDonough and Ryan Callahan. But well,
George, I believe you are next here.
I am.
Now we're going to get absolutely violated after you list off your top line.
You think so? I mean, I don't know. I like my top line. I like my top line. So I went with a different approach than I think everybody else here, right? Like I went with an approach of, okay, who's going to have a deal that I'm going to need to sign? So I went through this like an actual GM, not just like oh, this is a great team to have for this one season. It was built for the future. Here's my top line. Okay. On left wing, Timo Meier. At center, Leon Draisaitl. And at right wing, Owen Tippett. So in looking at everything, it's one of those things where I've seen plenty of these guys play. Timo Meier has been, he just flat out produces, in my opinion. He produced in San Jose. He's produced in New Jersey. He's going to be my left wing guy, right?
What version of the New Jersey Devils you are watching right now?
Wow. Version of the New Jersey Devils. He put up 28 goals and 24 assists in 69 games last year. In 69
non-existent
games.
in the playoffs. Non-existent. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could say that for a lot of players. If someone put, Artemi Panarin as their left winger, you could say non-existent. If someone put Mika Zibanejad as
but
their center,
even further in there, you're hating on JT Miller, who's above a point per game, going with a guy at $8.8 million more, who's scoring 52 points in 69 games.
Right, in 69 games, he didn't get a chance.
He can't
to play
even finish the season because he's hurt half the time. Matt's laughing as a Sharks fan, knowing they got rid of a good one.
We got to be in fairyland where like injuries don't exist though. So an 82 game Timo Meier could be pretty great. I mean, 40 goals for San Jose in a year. He had the 5-goal game against the Kings that one game that I'll always remember. So as a Sharks fan, I love the Timo Meier pick. And I will say as well, I think Owen Tippett's a great option there as well. Looking at the future, I think he's going to play a really hard-nosed two-way game for Philadelphia. So don't mean to boost it too much, George, but I think second best first line so far that I've heard. So.
Oh, that's good. Second best out of 2. That's good. And Leon Draisaitl at center.
That I do. I love that pick.
That's good. Yeah.
I won't hate, there's no hate there.
All right. I'll round up mine. So I got Kyle Connor, left wing. And then Jack Hughes centering that first line and Zach Hyman on the right side. I kind of went with the approach of kind of like the same as George with the future. And I really balanced all my lines, I would like to say, or tried as much as possible with the best salary cap and the best player at that salary. Yeah, like Casey said with his pick for Hyman, unreal season last year. Net front presence, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but he's on the power play 1 right in front of the net, right where he belongs, getting those garbage goals. Kyle Connor, I think he still has some untapped potential. He's had a few injuries over the past few seasons where he missed probably like 10, 20 games. I think if he has an 82 game season, he can put up 40, 50 goals. And I genuinely believe that. I know Winnipeg, they're kind of like on the bubble, if you will. I know they had a great season last season, but I think they're on the bubble this coming year. And Jack Hughes, that kind of goes without saying. Great skater. His hockey IQ is just incredible. Like he's unmatched in that regard, almost. And I think the best is yet to come from him.
Yeah, definitely. I can see his game growing into something a lot more than what we've seen, which is so much out of New Jersey already.
Scary.
So for me personally, I kind of took a two-level approach here. The first was mostly looking at, I love the underlying sabermetrics, but I got guys who can play hockey. That's at the end of the day, you need guys who can just go out there and play good, hard-nosed hockey. And that's kind of where I shape my team around. And the second thing is I didn't save money for the lower end of the lineup. I want star talent, star players win championships. And so to round that out on my first line, I do also have Zach Hyman. I have him on the right side. I think, everything that's been said has been, I agree with in terms of, somebody who's able to just put the puck in the net up front, but it takes talent to skate with talent. So I think, getting from Toronto over to Edmonton and playing with McDavid and Draisaitl and, really proving himself, I think it's an obvious one at $5.5 million. And then his two line mates who are going to feed him the puck and he might score 80 goals at that point are Leon Draisaitl, who I have on the left wing, because you're not going to move Sidney Crosby from the middle. I think as the captain of the team, he's a winner. I know the age is starting to get up there, but he's an ageless player. I think Sidney Crosby is still a top 10 player in the NHL without question. I think he plays a great two-way game, and I think he's a great leader for this mock team. So hard to not have 87 down the middle on your first line.
Can't say a thing about that. I absolutely love that top line, and I'm a bit intimidated as I head to my second line. But this is where I think my team's going to shine. And I forgot to throw out the core values of my team here. We're going based on leadership, grit and grind, and defensive structure. Defense wins championships. And
okay, Islanders.
This is where this is going to start. Okay, well, hey, I don't have a top line that can't get it done because I'm still scoring 3.5 goals a game while lighting you up and shutting you down. But line number 2 really starts to enforce this, and we started off on the left wing with Jonathan Marchessault, 12th overall in goals scored in the NHL, and just again $5.5 million right there with Zach Hyman, another Stanley Cup champion and a proven leader. So that goes right under my leadership core values. And then the center is where my captaincy comes. Vincent Trocheck, probably my favorite player in the NHL, unashamed to say. George is going to love that one, pump your tires after you just flatten mine. But, Trocheck's an absolute greaseball to play against. Top power play and top penalty kill versatility, top 30 point production in the NHL, 7th best face-off percentage in the NHL, and easily a decision for at least an assistant captain, but I'm giving him the C on my team. And then rounding out the right wing, I got Carter Verhaeghe, and I was back and forth on this spot because I went between Verhaeghe, Mats Zuccarello, and Alex Tuch, and I had Tuch, and then I was looking at his versatility and consistency was one of the big concerns for me. Zuccarello, the injuries have kind of worried me a little bit, but his point production was something that really stood out to me, and a guy who can play on the power play. But I ended up going with Verhaeghe because Zuccarello over the last 3 seasons has averaged rate in the 69 to 75 point range. Verhaeghe's about 5 lower than that average, but he's playing in 75 to 82 games per season. So, another guy that's in the top 25 of goal scoring, perfect fit to sit in my second and third line. And for $4.1 million, it's hard to argue against a top goal scoring weapon there.
I love your captain. Oh, captain, my captain. I wish, much like most of the Rangers faithful, I wish Vinny T gets the C after Truba leaves, hopefully soon. But you're absolutely right. And the fact that Carolina just kind of let him go, right? And the Rangers, were quick to jump in and snap him up. At first, I was like, oh, okay, Trocheck. But then you hear kind of like the backstory. You hear some grumblings from Carolina fans, like, man, why'd they let him go? And then you start looking at his game, and you're like, oh, okay, Vincent Trocheck, and he proved it in the playoffs again, right? He did it in the playoffs with the Canes. He did it in the playoffs with the Rangers. Everyone in the locker room loves him, and everyone is willing to break through a wall for him. That's a tremendous pick and a tremendous captain right there.
Biggest miss signing of NHL recent free agency in the last 10 years, I'd say the biggest mistake. George, you're back up. Second line, light him up.
All right. Second line, I got Brandon Hagel on my left side. I know it's not flashy, but again, we're looking to the future, right? He's going to had a little bit of a down year this year, 26 points, 49 assists. Better point production this year, not as much goal scoring, but his trajectory has been nothing but up. And again, decent money. I don't mind him at the 6.5 that I got him. Brand new deal for this year, right? That's one of the criteria. Brand new deal for this year moving forward. I got Nick Schmaltz from Utah as my center on my second line. 5.85, could run the power play, can also kill some penalties. I like that. I like a versatile center that could do it all. And on my right wing, and one of my alternate captains is Alexis Lafreniere. And I think we all had him because his number at 2.3 is so delicious at what he's done. And I got to say, I agree with a couple of other podcasters out there that say he could legitimately be a 100-point scorer in this league. And he proved it last year. That second line, which is really the first line for the Rangers, was phenomenal. And that was because of him on the right wing complimenting Trocheck and Panarin.
Might as well talk about it right now. As you foreshadowed there, every single one of us has Lafreniere, and a major breakout candidate. We're going to get towards it in fantasy as we get closer to the NHL fantasy hockey season. But a guy who went 14 points in 16 games in the playoffs, finished the regular season with 57 after a pretty slow first half of the season, and then put up 28 goals total, most of those coming in the back half. A guy this season I expect easily to eclipse 30 goals. That was why I went with him. But, and again, it's a low contract signed this offseason, just $2 million. And that's a pretty good deal, a bridge deal for a team that's going to be in cap hell coming up pretty soon.
It's one of those things where they're trying to figure out what's going to happen, especially with, who in goal, and Igor Shesterkin. Of course, he's going to be looking for at least $11 million back there. So with him on the bridge deal, you got Keandre Miller on the blue line, who's also on the bridge deal. You just signed Braden Schneider for 2 at 2.2, 2.5. There's a lot of things going on there. But that number for Lafreniere, and the fact that he's a player, man, and everyone questioned that number 1 overall pick, but I don't think they're questioning that anymore.
Nick, your second line.
Yeah, so I went with a different tactic on this one. Decided to get a little creative. I have a Blackhawk connection. So I have a trio of Blackhawks at one point or currently. Burning my first ELC at center, I have Connor Bedard. Had to. And then I have Patrick Kane on the right side at 4 million. New contract, 1 year, re-upped in Detroit. And then on the left side, I also have Brandon Hagel. I think Brandon Hagel is extremely underrated. I think he brings a tenacity to the lineup He's one of those blue collar guys. When you think of Matthew Tkachuk, I mean, you think of Brandon Hagel kind of right under him. I think at 6.5, that's a steal, and he is still young. And as George mentioned, he is on the ascending. He's ascending every single year with his point production, how he plays the game, how he approaches it. So yeah, I went with the Chicago Blackhawk lineup at the second line.
Yeah, and I think Hagel's going to have a huge opportunity to play a lot of minutes in that top six for Tampa. It's been shaken up a lot this offseason, but as one of the staples from the prior few seasons, I think Hagel has an opportunity to play up to that $6.5 million that he's currently at. For me personally, I also went with Connor Bedard as my second line center. Why not pair the former face of the NHL, maybe even still kind of the face of the NHL in Crosby, with the future face of the NHL at your 1-2C? But I tried to find guys on his wings that would make Connor Bedard's life the easiest possible to play hockey. So I tried to find the king of the rats and one of my captains on the left side of Brad Marchand. I think the skill combined with the ability to just pester every single opponent he plays is unbelievable. Great guy on and off the ice. I'm a huge fan of Marchand's game. And then on the right side, another guy who just is such a pain to play against. And you look at Philadelphia and Travis Konechny, just signed a huge extension that kicks in at the end of next year. So I still have him at his $5.5 million number for this upcoming season. But I think with Konechny, it's another guy who, has that offensive upside at the same time of playing a great two-way game and making Connor Bedard's life super easy to go out there and be the player that he wants to be.
RIP to our chances of ever having Connor McDavid on the show, because apparently he is not in consideration as a remote face of the NHL, according to Matt. And even better, the king of the rats. He loves Brad Marchand, but he hates Matthew Tkachuk. Brady Tkachuk, excuse me. Brady Tkachuk.
We'll talk about talent levels between those guys, and we can go into that conversation if you want, but he didn't even make your dream team. So I don't even know if we should really be talking about Brady Tkachuk.
I don't have much to say on the roster because I am a major fan of Brad Marchand, but I just find that a little bit humorous, Matt, as you're slightly hypocritical through 2 rounds. Line 3, and this is where I think my biggest bargain deals come into play. And starting on the left wing, my favorite signing of the offseason, Jeff Skinner in Edmonton, and Edmonton's going to start to become a common theme here in my lineup. Biggest bargain deal in the NHL after the buyout on a $3 million contract, getting a $9 million player for that value, theoretically a $9 million player. I know he didn't have a good season, but he's 1 year removed from an 82-point season. He has 7 50-plus point seasons dating back to his rookie year with Carolina. He was phenomenal for Buffalo. One moderately mediocre season that at the worst put him over 50 points this past year, and that got him bought out. I think that's an absolute steal on the third line, a guy that can get up on the power play, a guy that can score, and a guy that can make plays. I thought about Connor Bedard, and I just changed it up in the last couple of days. And the reason being, and Connor Bedard is obviously a franchise player and a generational talent. This is where I got into my second. I think he fits great as a top line, a second line center. I'm on my third line right now. I put in Wyatt Johnston here. I don't think Bedard's a guy that can go out in a forechecking role and a hitting role. Phenomenal playmaker, but he doesn't have the size. Wyatt Johnston's a guy that has that physicality. He can throw the body around and use that to generate plays. Just about the same price at $950,000. So Wyatt Johnston is my first ELC as my third line center. And then on the right side at $5.2 million, I'm nabbing Joel Eriksson Ek from Minnesota, a guy who is extremely underrated and goes completely under the radar, in my opinion, riding back-to-back 60-plus point seasons, but mostly touted for his defensive ability. He's been the A in Minnesota for 3 years. He's been 0.8 points per game since he's gotten into the league playing for Minnesota. and all doing that while playing on the top penalty killing unit. He also fills in on their top power play, so he can go into my power play as needed, but I'm using him in that third line role. I'm going to use him as a top penalty kill guy, and I absolutely love Eriksson Ek there.
I like Eriksson Ek on your right wing there. I totally missed on grabbing him for my, like, thinking about him for my roster. So that pick there is phenomenal. Like you mentioned, he's good pretty much any situation that Minnesota have asked him to play. Any minutes he's been asked to play, he's shined. And at 5.2, that's kind of a steal as well, in my opinion.
George, you're next.
All right, so I'm leaving Bedard as my third line center. I know you said he doesn't have that fight in him, but allowing him the opportunity to open up an offense on the third line, I think, would be beneficial. We're more of a Herb Brooks type of team. We don't defend, we attack, right? So when you're attacking and you have Jake DeBrusk on your left wing and you have Alex Tuch, and I know you mentioned Tuch's inconsistencies, but I think in a team like this where he's not going to have the pressure of being the guy on the wing to do something day in and day out with line mates like Bedard and DeBrusk, or being shuffled around, on a line with Hagel or something like that, I think that's a perfect fit. As I mentioned, I'm thinking of it as like a GM, like if I'm trying to put together an elite team on like an NHL, console franchise, and I'm trying to fit it in within the 88 million, thinking about contracts and everything else for the future. I think that third line of DeBrusk, Bedard, and Tuch, as we're offensive minded, comes into play very well. Wow, silence.
Yeah. I like it. I
do,
like that.
Yeah, I do love the Jake DeBrusk pick. That's kind of my 1 cent there. I think Boston kind of lost an opportunity there to bring him back in the city that I don't think he was obviously in love with the playing situation he had. But towards the end of the year, he was getting some top 6 minutes and obviously showed what he can produce on a top line there. So I think in Vancouver, if he's given that chance to play with Pettersson or apparently the overrated JT Miller, then I think he'll definitely shine out there. But
Appreciate the apparently and the apparently overrated.
yes, heavy emphasis.
I think he's sneaky overpaid. Jake DeBrusk, $5.5 million.
At 5.5?
Agreed. I agree.
It's a lot for a third.
Especially on the term too. The term's a lot.
Nick, your third line.
All right. So I'm gonna be a little bit piggybacking off of Casey's 2 of the 3. He kind of shut me down as far as Alex Tuch goes, but I have Alex Tuch on the left wing. I think this guy is an absolute workhorse. My third line, kind of their claim to fame is they're gonna work you to death. They can play in all situations. I mean, they're going to wear you down. And that's why they're the third line. That's why I have them there. Alex Tuch at 4.75. I think that's a bargain, considering what he's been through with Vegas and obviously now Buffalo being close to home. I think he loves playing for Buffalo. And he's just going to continue ascending, just like Hagel is going to be. Obviously a little older than Hagel is, but I think he's on the ascending factor there. And then I have at center Eriksson Ek. He can play in all situations. He can play up and down the lineup. He can play PK1, PP1, whatever you want him to do, that guy's going to do. And like we've all talked about, he is extremely underrated, way more underrated than Hagel is. But he can play up and down the lineup. He's coming in at the third C there. And then on the right side, I have Wyatt Johnston, burning my second ELC. He had an insane sophomore season. And into the playoffs, he was tremendous for Dallas's deep run, getting them to the Western Conference. And I just had to throw him on that right wing line, just for the sake of it.
definitely understand the Johnson appeal there. I think my third line has been pretty much touched on by everybody, so I'll kind of talk about kind of how I got to it. But I had about $4.5 to $5 million per spot on the third line here, and again, going back to my original, what am I going to do with this team? I'm just going to get guys who can play hockey. And so we've mentioned all these guys before, but I think Carter Verhaeghe, just under $4.2 million for Verhaeghe. Stanley Cup champion, a huge part of that team, puts the puck in the net. How can you not love that? Eriksson up the middle, obviously. We've talked about it a ton. Two-way player that, at 5.25 million, I believe it is. I think that's just a steal there on the third line. And then Alex Tuch as well, absolute workhorse, going to be able to play both sides of the puck. And so a third line that overall I think will play really well because they're very, two-way minded as a whole. And I think they do have, guys who are able to, kind of give me the Hagelin, Benino, Ketzel line of 2016 when Pittsburgh was going on their cup run, trying to think of my third line here. So the Verhaeghe, Eriksson, Tuch, the vet line potentially when this team goes on their big run.
I like
Fourth
it.
lines. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I like Verhaeghe on that third line. As you mentioned, he just puts the puck in the net, and it doesn't matter if it's a big moment or not. Playoffs, he's shown that he could show up and do it when it matters.
We'll go fourth lines and add in the extra forwards here. My fourth line is Matthias Janmark, Nico Sturm, and Alexi Lafreniere. We talked about how much we like Lafreniere, and as a fourth liner, plenty of opportunity to shine and maybe work his way up in front of the guys on top of him. But Nico Sturm was the first guy that I locked into my roster here. And when I was going through a personal favorite, obviously, is his name's hanging right behind me here, and a Clarkson guy that we've gotten to know. Matt and I got to meet up with him in Boston. But when you look at the stats behind Sturm, he's a top 5 face-off percentage guy in the league, and there's a reason he's such a hot commodity come trade deadline time. He got traded and his ELC from Minnesota to the Colorado Avalanche, and suddenly the Colorado Avalanche win the Stanley Cup. Now he's in San Jose, and I think coming up in March, we're going to see, again, a big move where he might get moved somewhere to a contender that is looking for a third, fourth line guy that can eat penalty kill minutes, wins major faceoffs. And the most interesting thing in watching him play, when Matt and I got to see it up close, he plays probably 30-second shifts, but he wins every freaking draw he takes. That Sharks team was an absolute mess when we were watching them. Like straight out of the AHL, can't make a tape-to-tape pass anywhere. And Boston is obviously a great team, was just feasting on them. Every time Sturm's on the ice, it's like the only chances they had the whole game. He makes great decisions, a grinder type guy that fits right in the mold of my team. That's where I locked him in. Then I added Janmark around him, a guy who really showed his talent during the Stanley Cup playoffs, a shorthanded nightmare for anybody playing against him. He's going to lead my top penalty kill, and I get him at $1.4 million, so perfect fit. And Lafreniere right in there as well, a low dollar deal. So that whole line comes in right around $5 million, and very happy and very confident in putting those guys out on the ice. My extras, I get Liam O'Brien from Utah, Spicy Tuna, a personal favorite after his social media campaign there, and it got him signed this offseason to a $1 million deal. Sam Steele from Dallas, I think, can fit in and out interchangeably with those third, fourth line guys if anyone gets injured. A guy that's got the nails in him, can go out and hit people, can go out and forecheck, can go out and penalty kill. And from Toronto, I'm getting Yanni Hakanpää at $1.5 million. Just a veteran D guy that can sit in the box and be a locker room presence. But if I need him to hop in the lineup, he's going to be my extra defenseman there.
I can't hate the Nico Sturm pick. I can hate the Sharks AHL reference that seems to come on every single episode. I think, a couple of years from now, we'll look back and be really happy that we got through the 2022, 2023
say that watching
seasons.
that game gave you any insight of good hockey.
Trust me, I've got a couple of Sharks fans that I'm friends with that we have a little group chat, and it's pretty much Barracuda fan club at this point. But No, I think Sturm's a great pick there up the middle, and winning a bunch of draws and getting the puck when it matters the most is important. It's kind of what the fourth line's job is to do, is to maybe not go out there and score every night, but make sure that nothing's coming through the back end when they're out there. So
George, you hijacked my swagger here. Your fourth line.
Oh, my fourth line. So much like you, Casey, I've been a big fan of Nico Sturm for quite some time. Not going back to his college days like you, but for quite some time. He was the first one I put in, and a little story here as well. Anytime I create a franchise in the NHL game series, I hunt down for Sturm. He's my fourth line guy, and he's my number one PK in my team. Same thing goes for this guy who I'm going to mention on the right side, Taylor Radish, who just signed a $1 million deal with Washington. He had one flash in a pan good year with Chicago, kind of fell off last year, but he's someone you do not want to go up against. He gets in the dirty areas. He's a great penalty killer. Why I brought him in on my right wing. Left wing, I'm going to go young, and I'm going to go potential to be mid to top 6. Okay, I'm going to go Brennan Othman. He's an ELC guy, New York Rangers, obviously.
You lost
and
me.
at 860,000, he's an absolute steal, right, for my right wing. If he could get that presence from Sturm, kind of help him, lift him up, who knows? If DeBrus starts hooping the bed at 5.5 million, like you guys said, overpaid, move him up in the lineup, whatever. But so that's my fourth line. I think it's a good line. My extras are Ilya Poitras, newly drafted by the Washington Capitals. I like this stuff in the USHL, and I like the fact that they signed him into his ELC already. Another guy, Georgi Merkulov. I see him a lot down here in Providence for Boston. When they called him up, I thought they did him a complete disservice not putting him anywhere in the lineup or giving him like an average ice time of like 3.5 minutes per game. It's like you got this winger who's scoring at a tremendous clip in the minors, right? Put him up. If you're going to call him up, put him up against the big boys. See what he can do. And then another Ranger, Zach Jones on defense. He's going to be able to kind of slip in anywhere in my second or third line defense and play good minutes.
I'm like throwing
Jordan.
guys off your fan favorite franchise that haven't sniffed the NHL ice here. And I think George is in violation of the rules actually here as I'm scrolling through his team. I think you got one too many ELCs here, pal.
No, I have 3
we
ELCs.
can give him Brennan Hoffman if he wants
You have 3
him.
ELCs
Yeah.
in the lineup.
I have 3 ELCs. That's the max: 21, 23, and 24.
Are you signing Patras to a 8x8 his first year?
No, that's his ELC, 890,000.
Right, he's on an ELC, but then you have 2
Right,
ELC
at
forwards and
24.
an ELCD.
What do you mean an ELCD? Oh,
We'll get to it.
you're right.
Uh-oh,
No. Okay. All
We're
right.
fine.
Someone broke the
Matt says
rules.
Give him
we've
Brennan
decided that these
Yeah,
names are so
he can have
unusable that we'll
He
let
can have
it slide.
Hoffman.
Nick, you're up.
I'll pay the luxury tax.
All right. So starting off, I'm gonna start with the left wing. Like everyone else, I kind of went with the grit, the grind. That's what you need out of a fourth line. And I watched this guy in particular do it way too many times to the Leafs. I got Nick Paul on the left side.
Ooh.
I got Nick Paul. I think he's great. He's
Our
what he
playoff side, too.
brings to the table for the Tampa Bay Lightning is something that they were looking for Jeannot as well, to kind of have like a 1-2 punch. I think they got it out of Nick Paul. They don't. Obviously, Jeannot, he's out the door. And then center, I have Boone Jenner, very good player on a very, very bad team. Leading the way. He leads by example. Great face-off guy. Plays on the PK, plays in front of the net on the power play. Have him at 3.75. And then on the right side, I have Colton Sissons. another guy that goes under the radar, that just grinds teams out. And he can play the PK. He's on my PK, with Jenner actually. So that 1-2 punch, I think they can score goals too. So if we really need it, they're there for to come up. But that's my fourth line. And then for extras, I have at forward Daniel Sprong, at 0.975. He's a consistent 20 goal scorer. He's a bit of a suitcase, just bouncing from team to team, but I think he's a great player. He knows how to put the puck in the net. You can't teach that. At defense, another extra, I have Eric Brandstrom, now on Colorado Avalanche, was a prospect for the Senators. Didn't get much of an opportunity, but I think he has tremendous offensive defenseman upside to his game. The roster for the Senators, it was clogged on the left D side. They have all left-hand defensemen, and he never got a chance. And I'm glad he's having an opportunity with Colorado. He might not get one there, but at 900K a year, I had to scoop him up. And the third extra, I have a goaltender. It's Lucas Dostal. He signed a 2-year, 0.812 deal, 812,000. I think he's an elite goaltender. That if Anaheim were to move on from John Gibson, they can easily do that with that guy just backfilling him. He's already pretty much taken over the number one goaltender as far as I'm concerned in Anaheim. But he had a tremendous world championships this past summer, and he's still very young. I think he's like early 20s. So yeah, that just about rounds it up.
A great call.
Alrighty, and now to my fourth line. Kind of went the mentality of if you do anything to anyone on the top 9, then I got 2 guys coming directly for your forehead. And no, it's not a Jacob Trouba elbow. It's Trent Frederick on my left wing at around 2.3 million. I think he just plays an unbelievable defensive game. And again, just somebody you hate seeing against you in the lineup every day. And another guy that in that Boston-Toronto series with a pest on the other side, Max Domi at center. I think even at the new deal at 3.75, unbelievable value, can even play up in the lineup if you need him to. But for me, at a fourth line role, playing 10 minutes a night and really just making people's lives miserable is kind of that goal of those two together. And then we mentioned him before, but Lafreniere, while they're all getting in fights behind the play, you just have Lafreniere sneak over and put the puck in the net. So a little bit of scoring upside on that fourth line. He's a bigger guy, so you can have the size to play on that kind of fourth line, with obviously opportunities to move up and down the lineup. But I think Frederick and Domi for me were like the 2 guys that when I'm thinking fourth line guys, those are the kind of guys I want on my team. And then in terms of
my favorite pick there.
Yeah, and then in terms of extras,
couldn't fit it in my salary cap.
Yeah, I had to make sure that I got Domi on the roster after watching him and Marchand beat the hell out of each other the entire playoffs. But in terms of my extras, I kind of went on the forward side. I went 1 speed guy and 1 size guy, depending on who kind of comes out of the lineup. My speed guy is Noah Gregor, Sharks legend, former Ottawa Senator as well, played in Toronto, kind of bounced around. But I think Gregor is a very fast player. He had, I think back in 2018 or 2019, maybe even a little later, where he was skating up on that line with Thornton and Pavelski when they had pretty much a revolving door at left wing. So he has that experience to be able to skate fast and be able to play up in the lineup if you need him to. And then for my size guy, I went Justin Brazeau, another Bruins guy who's, big body, big physical opportunity, had a chance to play some top 6 minutes in the playoffs against Toronto and I believe Florida. So for me, Brazeau, I think is kind of like that size guy that comes in and fills in that bottom 6 of the lineup. And then on the D end, I ended up going Nate Schmidt. I think talked about it a couple episodes ago, but I think it's the perfect Oliver Ekman-Larsson replacement for Florida, where sheltered minutes, 15 minutes a night on a $900,000 deal, and ability to potentially even play a power play too. I think Nate Schmidt, former Gopher, is a very good puck-moving defenseman still at his age of 32. So those are my 3 extras that I currently have buried on the roster.
I like that Brazo move, and really, if it wasn't for his size, I think Merkulov would have got more chances at looks on the ice for the Bruins. But because Brazo had the size, and he's got, I don't know if you've got living where in the part of the country that that I do, right? I'm like inundated with Providence and Boston and Providence and Boston, so I got it. Plus, P Bruins tickets being supremely cheap and being able to see a lot of good talent go through the amp down there in Providence. Seeing those two guys play, Brazo has great edges, and you mentioned it. He got a chance to play top 6 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he develops even more over this summer and gets even more looks. But keep an eye on Georgi Merkulov too, because once they start going younger on their wings, and he has the potential to play center as well, that's someone that they could key in on to kind of come in and play up.
I love the
Oh.
Trent Frederick. He's an in-your-face type of player. I love that pick. He was one of my honorable considerations, honorable mentions.
We'll go full decors here. So break down all 6 defensemen, where they fit in, why you picked them, and I'll open it up here with a guy every single one of us has, which makes me glad that I wasn't the only one that notices it. But Jacob Slavin is my top line left D, a consistent 40-point scorer, in my opinion, the top NHL defenseman in terms of defensive rating and offensive play. I'm sure that's pretty arguable. And now that I say it, I can off the top of my head, I can think of 1 or 2 that I might put ahead of him. But right up there in the best of the best, and especially when you look at the dollar value on him coming in right at 5.3. You're not going to find a guy of his caliber that goes for any less. And there's a reason he just signed an $8 million deal. But 40-point production with a plus 20 rating or better in 6 of his 8 seasons at Carolina. So guys aren't scoring when he's on the ice and he's producing offense. I'm putting him with Evan Bouchard on the right side. $3 million cap hit, a guy that's going to be a popular name as well as we go through here, but a guy who shined especially in the playoffs, but also throughout the whole season. Power play guy, big booming shot that just commands the blue line. He's a top 30-point producer in the NHL, and that's dominating on top of the forwards as a D-man, which isn't easy to do. 8th in the NHL in plus minus as well. Edmonton let in a lot of goals. They had the offense, but it wasn't like goals weren't going in the other way. And it helps that Bouchard was not one of those guys that was letting in too many goals while he was on the ice. My second pair, I'm going to stick with the Oilers here and go Matthias Ekholm on the left side. Ekholm, touted for his big slap shot, but more underrated is that he is one of the best defensive shutdown players in the NHL. He's proven to be an outrageously successful ad for the Edmonton Oilers, the 3rd highest plus minus rating in the entire NHL at plus 44 during the regular season. I'm going to put him alongside, in my opinion, the best defensive defenseman ad of the offseason, Brett Pesce, that the New Jersey Devils got. A little bit of Carolina bias, maybe, but I think that's the piece that New Jersey added that, in my opinion, makes them a number 1 threat in the Metro, and a reason that I think Carolina is not going to be successful this season is the ice time that he can eat up, the penalty kill minutes that he can take, and the shutdown potential where he's going on against everybody's top line and also carrying a significant plus while doing that. He's had 30 points in 4 of the last 5 seasons, every single one of those seasons being 25 plus. So a little bit of offensive upside there. And then my third pair, I kind of bounced back and forth. I thought about Lori, but I went with Thomas Harley from the Dallas Stars, among the top 15 in plus minus rating on an ELC, cheap contract, and a guy that has power play upside, but also has the defensive end. And I'm putting him right alongside another ELC and Brock Faber, a guy that I absolutely love. I had him in fantasy this season, and it was, obviously fun to watch. And there's a great reason they signed him already to an 8 times $8 million that'll go into effect in 2025-26. So a guy top 10 in time on ice, #1 over any rookie this season and leading the Minnesota power play, that's a no-brainer for me at $925,000 for this upcoming season. So I kind of on the D tried to focus on defensive rating with a little bit of offensive upside, and then also going on bargain deals. I tried to stay away from the $8-9 million contracts. I love Cal McCarr, was a guy I really thought of. Quinn Hughes, I would have loved to have, but just a little bit too expensive in my opinion there.
I don't have much of an argument for any of that, for your decor or your reasoning. The two youngsters on the back end, clearly going to be youngsters and Faber's already signed that deal that are going to bring in boatloads, gobs of money moving forward. Harley and Dallas as well. So all great decisions right there.
George, your decor.
My decor, I think no surprise, I got your boy to lead off my LD1, right? It's just one of those things at 5.3 was a tremendous get, I think, for that price for this year. I got Matt Roy on his right side at 5.75 from Washington. I just like the way he plays. I liked everything about him, watching him play in LA. And I thought Washington needed to do something to help solidify that decor, and Matt Roy was a good get for them. I got Gustav Forsling and Rasmus Anderson from Florida and Calgary, respectively, on my second line. Forsling just signed that 5.75, and that truly, watching him play throughout these playoffs, these last playoffs, is what led me to pick him up, because watching him, his hockey IQ, where he should be, where he's anticipating the puck to be, and then of course scoring that game-winning goal against the Bruins kind of helped everything kind of wrap that up in a bow for myself. I got Urho Verkanainen from Anaheim at 1.1, which I thought was a steal on the back line to kind of help bring Brock Faber up even more if you can in his entry-level deal. Why are you putting a thumbs down? Again, look, I approached this a little differently than you guys. I thought GM mode, for culture, for my team to kind of help elevate them throughout. And that's
the list
my
of
that's my
names that
default.
made Nick Kozan laugh over here. Urho
Well,
Vakanainen, 1.1.
Yeah, hey, gotta do what you gotta do. He'll go well with Faber though.
Not every GM can win the Stanley Cup, George. It's all right.
No, it's all right. You're in the rebuild year.
Nick, you're up.
All right. So first, the left side, I have Gustav Forsling. Exactly what George said. What he was able to do, especially in the playoffs. I think that opened a lot of people's eyes to the way that he can play the game. He's been probably doing that all throughout. And the fact that they were able to get him, the Panthers, off of waivers is just crazy. After the numerous seasons that he's had shutting down top forward lines all throughout the season, all throughout the playoffs, we saw it. And then on the right side, my first D is Noah Dobson at $4 million. He is a steal. He almost put up a point per game the last 2 seasons. He's running the first power play. He's got great offensive upside, but he plays such a great defensive structured game. Obviously being on the Islanders, that's what they're known for. And his deal's up at the end of this coming season. So 2025, he'll be looking for a new deal, and it's not going to be cheap. He's going to be looking for probably 9 million plus, is what I expect. But second pair, I have Jakob Slavin. Like everyone else has said, the 5.3 is hard to shy away from, especially the way he plays and the stats that he has put up. His plus minus shutting down top pair or top lines. On his right side, I have my last ELC. It's Brock Faber. Exactly what Casey said too. Running that first power play, stepping into Jared Spurgeon's role, he took it over perfectly and then some. Jared Spurgeon does not have the top pairing right side anymore. It's going to be Brock Fabers for at least another 8 years. And then for the last pair, I kind of went with two-way defender specialist, more defensively sound. I went with Braden McNabb from the Vegas Golden Knights at 2.85. He's among the league lead in block shots and PK minutes. I think at that number, that value, I had to put him on there. And then Rasmus Anderson, 4.55 on the right side. Those two together, I think no one's getting by them. It's hard to imagine if they're able to, but that's my decor right there.
Really like McNabb there. That was a guy that was in and out of my roster. I couldn't keep him on the cap. Unfortunately, I had to go with Harley on the extra ELC to close out the defense, but that's a great pickup. Maddie, take us
Goes
home
under
here.
the radar.
Yep. All righty. A lot of names have been said that you're going to hear again. I'm actually going to start from the bottom up, just based on kind of what names have already been said. Brock Faber, third pair, right side. Everyone understands why that's the case. I will say, I think his second half of the season, you definitely saw some signs of a rookie, but at that age, still being able to do what he did the first half, and even still was a consistent player in the second half. I think obviously a no-brainer. Got him paired with another Big Ten player, a Michigan guy, Luke Hughes, on an ELC. I think he's got an opportunity to step up into a top four role with New Jersey this year and really thrive in that kind of role. Especially, I'm praying they put him with Brett Pesce, because I think letting Luke Hughes kind of go out there and do what he can on the offensive front and having a guy like Brett Pesce stay at home would be an unbelievable pairing for New Jersey. But unfortunately, I'm not running that team, so we'll see. Maybe after this, they'll give me a call. But my second pair, I kind of stole Ditzel's top line, so if that tells you kind of where things may be going here. Jacob Slavin and Evan Bouchard. You got the stay-at-home guy in Slavin, and the guy who's going to go out there and run the power play one, and Evan Bouchard. And then for my top pair, Noah Dobson as well at $4 million. Really tough to pass up on. And then my final spot, obviously couldn't leave Luke Hughes without a brother. The Norris Trophy is given to the best defenseman in the league, so why not add him to my team? Quinn Hughes is going to be running our defense and eating up a lot of minutes. I think his year in Vancouver was unbelievable. You win the Norris for a reason. He's easily probably a top 3 defenseman year in and year out over the past 3 or 4 years. And so I think having him kind of run that defense is going to be really good for the team.
The only problem I have with Hughes here is the lack of size and the defensive liability, and a great call there on putting him with Pesce, which is going to be great for the Devils. But unfortunately for your standing, you're putting him with Faber, who's more of an offensive guy as well. That would be the only knock I think I could find on your entire team right now. But
I think,
and that's a pretty sarcastic one too, because Luke Hughes is going to be a phenomenal player. That's a guy who got stuck with pretty much no defense around him as a rookie, and honestly shouldn't have been playing as many minutes as he had to this year anyway as a first year guy. But I think he could be the future Quinn coming up. Goalies is where we finish it off. And for me, Igor Shesterkin and Stuart Skinner, I don't know how you could go anywhere that's not Shesterkin for this year. I don't think, if we're going in future terms, as GM George seems to think is the way to go, which is ironic because this is a guy who's in his lineup coming up. He is going to ruin the New York Rangers, in my opinion, because he's going to be worth way too much money. 5.67 for this season is a steal for my opinion, the best goalie in the league, a guy that can play 50, 60 games if you need him and then go shut it down in the postseason. And I'm going to pair that with the backup goalie of the year, Stuart Skinner. If for some reason Shesterkin goes down, I've got Skinner to come, a guy that I'm extremely confident is going to lead my team to the Stanley Cup final, even if he can't get it done. Hopefully Shesterkin's back to health by then, but I only need him to play 30 games or so, and 30 would be doing me a justice. Only 2.6 million, and I follow my episode 1 standard of not overpaying for my goalies. 7 million, 8, probably a little bit over 8 actually, now that I do the quick math on that. but just over 8 for both of my goalies to come in. I love it. George.
So I gotta be honest with you. I was thinking about going with Jeremy Swayman, but because the Bruins are being the Bruins, I guess, in this situation and not even offering a contract and then giving away Olmark and then still saying, yeah, we just don't know what we're doing. I
Because
thought
Matt's a
about
hardo on the rules over here.
yeah, I thought about Otter down in Dallas. I love what he's done in Dallas and the numbers he's put up. But then I fell back on my guy, Igor Shesterkin at 5.67. It's a no-brainer. It's cheap as hell. We'll figure out the money on the back end. Plus the salary cap's going to go up anyways. It's not going to stay at 88 million, right? You could finagle some things. And my backup is Ilya. There's two different ways to pronounce this: Samsonov or Samsonov. I don't know which way you guys want me to pronounce it. Ilya Samsonov.
I'll do it for you, Casey.
At 1.8.
George, if you like your off nights being 7 goals against you, go to town on that one.
See,
And you're paying 1.8 for a guy who could be in the A.
I'm paying 1.8, but if you
I think the San Jose Sharks of this year are beating George's roster.
No way.
On a good night.
No shot.
I love the Sharks, but I'm not as. I'll let George talk about Samsonov, but there was a conversation 4 years ago where it was Samsonov in Washington and Shesterkin in New York as the Russian tandem of the future in the Metro. So he's got the upside there.
Look, he's not the primary. He's the secondary guy, and Benoit Allaire has worked magic with goaltenders. That's my goaltending coach, by the way, Benoit Allaire. I don't know if you guys knew that. He's worked magic with all goaltenders, especially Russian goaltenders. So why not have Samsonov 1.8? You guys laugh at that.
Exact why not is because you're paying 1.8 for a guy that's going to get you a quarter of the way through the first round versus paying $200,000 more for a backup that gets you to the Cup final.
So you say, but Shesterkin is held up. He's played in 50 plus games every year. He could hold up to it as long as Samsonov, however you want to pronounce it, as long as he could step in for 30 to 35 games max, right? And just hold down the fort. I'll take a 500 record from him as long as Shesterkin's getting me, the numbers that he has proven he can give, especially come January through, let's say, May or June.
It could have been nice here, and I would have been rooting for your team until you just violated my first line, and now I'm a fan of Matt's team. Nick, goalie us up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go different approach. I'm not gonna put Igor Shesterkin on my top 2. I have an American duo. First, I kind of went back and forth as far as who the starter was, but I thought they could just split the season and see who it comes down to come playoffs. But I have Thatcher Demko at $5 million as my starter. And then as a backup, I have Jake Ottinger with Dallas. It's hard not to put Demko there given the season he just had and honestly the upside that he has and him being still young. And same with Jake Ottinger, honestly. But I think those two together make up a pretty good back end as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure we're gonna make the Cup with those two goaltenders.
I don't think you can argue against pretty good back end there with 2 star-studded starters. Maddie, finish.
Go in the Boston Bruins approach there with the 2 Vezina caliber goaltenders on the back end. I don't hate the idea there. I actually went with the approach of not spend money on goaltending. I think everyone here has a backup goaltender that's making above league minimum. For me, I ended up going Joseph Woll. I think it was down to him and Logan Thompson and even Lucas Dostal. I think upside wise, I like the potential of Joseph Woll. I'm wearing the Leafs shirt. I'm not a Leafs fan, but if I was, I'd be pretty upset that he wasn't getting the starts against Boston. I think he proved that he's definitely a formidable, 1B with a huge 1A upside moving forward if they give him the opportunity at a young age. And at $867,000, he's not going to have to, carry the weight load for the team, which is going to be on the $4 million back of Jake Ottinger. I think, the BU former college guy, I have a pretty big theme of that on my team. I think Ottinger is, in such a prime position in Dallas right now to just play his game and play the way he wants to. And I think similarly with my cap dream team, it's going to be a really good team up front. So just need a guy who's going to go out there, give you a 915 save percentage year in and year out, and not going to have to worry about, is he going to lose us the game? I think Jake Ottinger in most situations is not going to lose you the game. And I might be even underselling his ability and even his potential at a young age. I think, he's definitely in the conversation amongst the top 10 goaltenders in the league. And, only going to go up from here with a Dallas team that I think is really dangerous this year. So I ended up going with Ottinger and Wool as my netminders.
All right, time to vote here. Go quickly through the special teams units. So for me, again, a reminder, the left wings, Hyman, Marchessault, Skinner, Janmark. Centers are JT Miller, Trocheck, Johnston, and Sturm. Matthew Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, Eriksson Ek, Lafreniere are the right wingers. D-Corps, Slavin, Bouchard, Ekholm, Pesce, Harley, Faber, with Shesterkin and Skinner in goal. Extras, Liam O'Brien, the spicy tuna, Sam Steele, and Yanni Hakanpää. For me, power play 1 is Hyman, Miller, Tkachuk, Bouchard, and Marchessault. Skinner, Trocheck, Verhaeghe, Faber, and Johnson on power play 2. Penalty kill 1, Janmark, Trocheck, Ekholm, Pesce. Penalty kill 2 is Sturm, Eriksson Ek, Slavin, and Harley. For George, the left wingers, Timo Meier, Brandon Hagel, Jake DeBrusk, Brennan Othman.
That's right.
On his all-time greatest roster. Centers, Draisaitl, Schmaltz, Bedard, Nico Sturm. Right wingers, Tippett, Lafreniere, Tuck, and Radish. D-Corps is Slavin and Roy, Forsling and Anderson, Urho Vakanainen, and Brock Faber, with Shesterkin and Samsonov in net. Poitras, Merkulov, and Jones are the extras on George's team. And his special teams, Meyer, Schmaltz, Draisaitl, Forsling is power play 1. DeBrusk, Bedard, Tuck, and Lafreniere are power play 2. PK 1, Sturm, Radish, Forsling, Anderson, Schmaltz, Hagel, Slavin, and Roy on penalty kill 2. Nick's team, left wingers, Connor, Hagel, Tuck, Nick Paul. Centers, Hughes, Bedard, Eriksson Ek, Boone Jenner. Right wingers, Hyman, Patty Kane, Johnston, and Sissons. D-Corps, Forsling and Dobson, Slavin and Faber, McNabb and Anderson, Demko and Ottinger are the goalie tandem. His power play unit, Hyman, Bedard, Connor, Hughes, Dobson. Power play 2 could alternate between Paul or Tuck, with Johnston, Eriksson Ek, Kane, and Faber. His penalty kills are Jenner, Sissons, Forsling, and Anderson on the top kill. Eriksson Ek, Hyman or Nick Paul, McNabb, and Slavin on penalty kill 2. And the final roster, Matt's team, the forwards, left wings, Draisaitl, Marchand, Verhaeghe, Trent Frederick, Crosby, Bedard, Eriksson Ek, and Domi. Hyman, Konechny, Tuck, and Lafreniere. On the right side, Gregor and Brazo, the extra forwards, Quinn Hughes and Dobson, Slavin and Bouchard, Luke Hughes and Faber, and Schmidt as the extra D. Ottinger and Wool are the goaltenders. Power play 1, Hyman, Bedard, Draisaitl, Crosby, Quinn Hughes. That's a little intimidating. Power play 2, Konechny, Tuck, Marchand, Verhaeghe, Bouchard. Penalty kill 1, Eriksson Ek, Frederick, Slavin, Faber. Penalty kill 2, Domi, Marchand, Hughes, and Dobson. Penalty kill 3. What kind of fantasy franchise are we running out here? Crosby, Konechny, Luke Hughes, and Bouchard. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to go in order of how we just ranked them. Everybody on the YouTube screen is going to hold up a ranking 1, 2, 3, or 4. We're going to take the average of them and find out, according to the fifth liners, who is the best couch GM. We'll start with my team. And on 3, 1, 2, 3. 2. That's an easy average. All right. Well, I've locked myself in at. Oh, well, I guess people could average worse than that. All right. Next up, George's team.
Wait, do we vote for our own as well?
You can vote for yourself. Yes.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. 2. You already voted 2.
Yeah, I'm tied for second for you. 4.
George,
okay.
We're gonna give him what would be
That's all
14,
right.
14 over 4 is 3.5. You can tell my communications major hard at work over here with the calculator out.
Don't forget to carry
All
the
right.
one out there.
Nick. 1, 2, 3. Unanimous vote of 3rd overall. Matt,
I'll
1,
take it.
2, 3. The winning franchise and the first ever champion GM of the Fifth Liners podcast snaps out to the guy who came up with the idea, Matt Leonardo. Cheers, buddy.
They don't call me a couch GM for nothing. I don't know if I get like a
Forward
30-second
along
winner's
to
circle here, but
our friends in the NHL. Hopefully Craig Conroy's listening in. Maybe he'll get the assistant job up here. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our jersey votes, voting on the overall best and everybody except Matt, the overall worst NHL jerseys. Stay tuned. This is the Fifth Liners podcast. We'll be back in a moment. We took a 5-minute hiatus and the team almost got torn apart there. Matt is about to get torn apart live on air here. The end of our summer as we come to our 2023-24 NHL jersey rankings. And this all came from 2 podcasts ago. Those who listen to Matt's hiatus of a take on the brand new Anaheim Ducks jerseys. And he's not alone as he's made a friend. Fortunately for him, his friend has the worst taste in the entire group, as we'll get to see here. And we will be posting on our social medias if you want to follow along here the full rankings of every jersey that was debuted. We're going to go through the top 5 and the bottom 5, and we'll start on the top. Matt was the brunt of the litter on the front side, so he can be top dog here and lead us off. Matt, start at 5, take us to 2.
yeah, so a couple things leading up into this. I kind of have my tier list up here and kind of tiered them off. My God tier is our top 5 here. We've got would purchase, enjoy the look, indifferent, not a huge fan, pretty bad, and then honestly way more than I thought are throw in the garbage. I think the NHL, there are some teams with some improvement, and we'll talk about some of those in a second. But for my top 5, we're looking at some of the jerseys that were last year introduced, and I'm going with the cream Boston Bruins Centennial jersey. I'm a little upset that they're going back to the black and yellow. I did love that gold accent on some of those Bruins jerseys. I think it does make sense to go back to that black and yellow spoke B, and I think it would probably be somewhere maybe like an enjoy the look or indifferent for me. But that cream jersey with the brown accent was a gorgeous jersey. It was awesome to watch the team in person for the first time as I just moved here in those jerseys. And speaking of seeing,
gorgeous like cream and brown.
if you look at me walking down the street on a typical Saturday afternoon, it's going to be a lot of cream and a lot of brown. So no wonder I'm a huge fan of those Bruins jerseys. But coming in at number 4, and this is more of a full kit look, I've got the Sharks teal. I think going away from the black accent and going full teal was definitely a bold move, but it paid off, Cotton. I think these are absolutely gorgeous. I think, a new era of Sharks hockey and watching Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini hoist the Stanley Cup in these is going to be awesome to see in a couple of years. I can't wait. And I think, the The whites are also really nice, don't get me wrong, but that all teal look is something special. I think, they look the part, they just aren't playing the part at the moment. I think they'll get there at some point. My number 3, I know this is going to be contentious. I personally am a big fan of black alternate jerseys. And the one that I ended up putting up here was the Toronto Maple Leafs one. I think that blue and black combination, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think the blue that Montreal has really does a job. Nick, you're really helping me out with a lovely example in the background there.
Selling it for you.
I think it's a great, Toronto style jersey where it's a little off the cuff from their, original thread. Obviously, you're never going to go away from that blue and white Montreal logo, but I think the new era of Justin Bieber and the Six and kind of the more hip 2020s Montreal, Toronto in that case.
An original. They ripped it off They ripped it off the Lightning.
Yeah, but the Lightning it was just black and white. There wasn't really, and they had like the weird arm sleeves on the side. I think Toronto did it correct. I think Tampa might have done it first, but they just didn't do it right. I think Toronto definitely did it right here. And then my number 2, we're going with the Arizona Coyotes, their second edition of the reverse retros. It's the purple jersey with the kind of scenic look underneath. I think those are unbelievable. If we're going top reverse retros, that's number 1 in my book. I think they absolutely killed it with that look. I think that Coyotes logo is fantastic. The Kachinas themselves are up there on my list as well, but I think, that purple kind of night sky look of Arizona, I'm going to miss it. I think Utah has an opportunity with the color scheme to do something pretty good with those jerseys, but I don't think anything's going to beat what Arizona had for kits last year. So I ended up putting the Coyotes reverse retro number 2 at my number 2 on my list.
Not even close to a top tier Coyotes jersey. And Nick has the same idea as me, but
There's too
I
much
would not
going
put the
on
Leafs
that one
anywhere
for me.
near that Leafs jersey. I wouldn't even put anywhere near the top. Nick put it in his secondary tier.
It looks so good up on the wall too.
I
It
do
looks
like
fantastic.
the Bruins sparkle, but
I
they
think-
totally ripped that off Vegas. Again, not original. I
The
had the
sleeves are
Sharks
so
totally
nice.
teal up there in my original rankings, and I knocked it down after the fact. And I gotta wait for Matt's number 1, but good grief. Nick, salvage us, buddy.
Yeah, so I'll start from the number 5. I'm starting off with an iconic one. So I got the home and away Chicago Blackhawks. I think there's no way around that. They're never gonna change that. I think it's beautiful just the way it is. I love the red personally, but those two together, thinking of like Denny Savard, Jeremy Roenick wearing those sweaters, there's something about it. Number 4, I got Arizona Coyotes Desert Night maroon jersey. These things are so nice. They have the cactuses on the bottom, cactuses on the sleeve. It goes exactly with their brand and what they've done. When you think of Arizona, like Arizona State, Arizona Coyotes, they have the best jerseys. And this one is personally one of my favorites. I was about this close from buying a Clayton Keller one last year, but I didn't want to be called a bandwagon. So I have the Leafs one hanging up. Number 3, I have the Sabres goat head black jersey. This team plays unbelievable when they wear these jerseys. I don't know what it is about it, but these goat head jerseys just spark something in the Sabres roster. When they're in a slump, they can just turn to these jerseys and they're going to be firing away on all cylinders. At number 2, I have the Flames retro, reverse retro Mustang alternate jerseys. These things are so clean. Like kind of Matt said with the black sweaters. I love these black sweaters with Calgary. Kind of goes back to their like mid 90s kind of feel to them. And the Mustang on the front, the big Mustang is a little bit scarier than the C with a flame, in my opinion. So I think the black just accents it really, really well with the red that they have going on.
Question of the day: could the Buffalo Sabres win the Stanley Cup if they were to go ahead 82 games? I'm
100.
I'm debating. I think
Depends on
they
who's
could.
in goal.
They've looked the part.
Maybe 2 years ago. I
With
think
Lindy
if we
Ruff
did-
back, they're going full time with those
Oh,
You don't
things.
like
yeah.
Ukko-Pekka Lehkonen
They have
in
to.
goal?
Not at the price he's paying.
No.
Yeah, it's
I
not-
think
don't
if we
love
did
that,
overall
but
rankings, I would have Calgary up there for number one. The all reds are sweet. The
those ones are nice too.
their kits are great, and the Flames Mustang is definitely up there on mine as well. Right along with Matt for terrible taste is his new best buddy, George.
No, listen, if this was
Bandwagon.
if this was 24-25, the Ducks jersey would have made my top 5. As it is right now, you'll see later on where they're ranked. But I really have 6. It's a tie for 5, and then we'll move on up. But tied for 5th is the Carolina Hurricanes Hartford Whalers alternate jersey. I love that thing. I was a big Hartford Whalers jersey fan back when they were in the league. So the fact that A, Carolina paid homage to it, but B, did so in the true fashion and the way that the sweater was with the appropriate stripes is just chef's kiss. Tied for that is we'll touch upon going back in time, the Minnesota Wild, Minnesota North Stars colors on their alternate jerseys. So that's tied for 5th on my list. Then we have a jersey that I really love, and I know some you guys are probably going to give me flack for it, but the Winnipeg Jets Air Force powder blue jersey and uniform. You see, you laugh at that, but you have the black Maple Leafs jersey in your top tier.
Oh
You
my
have no
gosh.
space to laugh at
The
that.
fact that you're getting laughed at by Matt makes this even better because he's the
No,
only
I mean,
one with just as bad taste.
Jersey taste is taste. Don't get me wrong, but like I think the stripes are just all over the place. What do we?
better than the Maple Leafs black jersey. But in
Continue.
keeping
I
with
didn't
the
mean to cut you off.
That's all right. In keeping with black jersey themes, we're gonna go Vancouver Canucks, the old school alternates, with the black skating with the skate with the Canucks underneath it, and then the Dallas Stars blackout. Those things are phenomenal, so sharp. Love them. I think I'm gonna get myself a Nottinger one coming up soon.
I would recommend you don't. That's just my personal take on that. I feel like if you wanted to go to like a middle school and grab some highlighters, you might be able to find something that looks a little better. But I will say we're not going to completely just throw it down. I love the Vancouver skate jersey. I think that the black look is an unbelievable look for Vancouver. It really brings back that retro feel, and I think they still brought some of the elements from the Canucks jerseys from now into it. So I think the best of both worlds mix there was really great.
Down the line, yes or no on the chrome buckets, the black chrome with the Vancouver skate. I thought those
No.
were sweet.
Oh,
Classic.
no,
Of course,
no.
George doesn't
I
like
love
that.
it. I like it. Yeah,
No,
no, I'm good with
Eh,
chrome.
Much like I didn't
Nick?
like the LA Kings chrome
No.
jersey helmet. No,
Is
Come
it,
on,
is it
those
the
are
chrome or the
sweet.
matte? Is it the
Or
matte
Matt.
helmet?
No, it's Matt. It was Matt Black.
I do like the matte, but
Yeah,
the
the
chrome
best.
on like the Kings ones and all
Yes.
that, no.
Give me the
The
chrome
matte, the
domes.
matte.
Give me the chrome domes.
I'm getting them
the-
confused with the chrome blues Vancouver did. I was the Matt Black was the one I was
Yes,
referencing.
Matt,
Those
Matt
are
Matt
nice.
Black.
I like
yeah,
those. I
Okay.
like those.
At least we're all on the right tier here. All right, for me, number 5 is on the chrome spectrum and the Vegas sparkling gold alternates. I am a huge. We got to think about the setting that we're in here. Vegas is all about the lights, all about the flash, and it goes so in on that. I think they absolutely crush the nail with that jersey. Nick, I'm riding your tail feathers here. Number 4 for me is the Buffalo Sabres goat head. Just a all around great looking one. George, don't even talk right now, buddy. And then I'm following you up, switching our 3 and 4. I got the Arizona Desert Night alternate as my number 3. Number 2 for me is the Minnesota Wild alternate North Stars tribute jersey, which I think I heard is going to become the primary jersey this year. Huge fan of that one. I'm a big neon colors guy, so that thing just stands out, catches my eye. When Sturm signed with Minnesota, that was the first jersey I got of his was his Minnesota rookie one, but had to upgrade it for the Stanley Cup champs. So now that's a new beer league jersey. But that's my 5 through 2.
I have to say something about the sparkly jersey. I have a buddy who has one. He literally goes by Sparkles now because of it. Like it's just so bad. I like.
Can we throw it
There's a
back to
time
Matt's
in,
number 5 here as he goes with the sparkling cream and
Bruins
brown?
jersey, yeah.
Yeah,
there's
and
no
you said
sparkle in that one. No,
there
there's
totally
not.
is. The
The
gold
Dude,
sparkles.
Dude,
the
the
white
gold,
jersey.
100% sparkles.
the gold has
Oh.
sparkles in it. I've
Yes, it
seen,
does.
I've
No, the
seen
Bruins
the
one?
jersey in person.
Yes, it
It's
does.
got sparkles.
I mean, at least it's not the entire jersey. I think that's
You-
kind of where my problem.
It's a
really
3-1
comes in.
vote, and the only guy that doesn't know is the guy that picked the jersey and the guy that's from Boston. That's outstanding. To tell you how great,
Irony.
to tell you how trustworthy Matt's takes are throughout the entirety of this coming up. On to the bottom 5.
I only provide objective takes. That's what we have to remember here. This is all objective statements.
On to the bottom 5. Matt.
Okay. Alrighty. There is a lot to choose from here. I kind of just threw a bunch of stuff into the garbage. I think honorable mentions for teams that I think overall, and this is last year, awful kits. The Ducks kits last year, really bad. The black with like the weird, like tannish color. What are you doing? Columbus, what are we doing with the stripes everywhere? The Canes again as well, another team who had a really big major jersey upgrade this year. Last year, I really don't love the pipes going down the arms of the jersey, similar to the Capitals as well. But in terms of actual jerseys themselves that are in my bottom 5, I'm going number 5, the sparkly Vegas Knights jersey. I think it sticks out like a sore thumb on the ice when they've got the chrome gold helmet too. I think the Canes silver chrome works, the gold chrome doesn't. The white gloves, I get why they're doing it. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't like the way it
Go
looks.
sit in the sewer.
We all
The number 4 I have is the New York Rangers alternate, that navy jersey that has like the weird stripes at the bottom and the sides.
Yeah.
I don't love the colors that they chose to do that in. I think if you're gonna go with a navy Rangers jersey, just do Lady Liberty and call it a day. Like do it the right way. Don't do whatever. It's like the Stadium Series jersey. I did not love that like navy Rangers jersey they pulled out last year.
George just agreed with you. Wait, 1 second. George just agreed with you, and he has it under his pretty good list. It's number 2 on his pretty good list. Actually,
it is number 2.
Oh,
It did grow on me though. When I first saw it, I thought it was disgusting, and I was with Matt. Like, why are you going to do a dark jersey? But it grew on me as the time went on.
I didn't give the time of day, unfortunately. It's over at the local waste management. My number 3, we're gonna go with the Dallas Stars neon jersey again. Like, I'm sorry, these are a lot of ones that are showing up on your guys' lists as well. But again, the highlighter look,
great
like,
jerseys.
I really am not a huge fan of the. I don't want to be at like laser tag playing hockey. So for me personally, like, just isn't pulling it for me. And then my number 2, I am going to throw in all of the Anaheim Ducks kits from last year, just because of the unbelievable glow up that they had this year that we'll talk about later. But I think the black one and the white one, the home and away kits for the Ducks, was number 32 in the league last year, and it wasn't even close. And I think, starting from the bottom, they might have made their way close to, if not to the top this year. But for number 2, I'm going to have to put the prior year Ducks jerseys in that.
It's so awesome that the reason we did this segment was because Matt hyped up the Ducks train, and now he has them as his number 2 worst jersey.
Again,
Nick?
remember, last
Nick?
year to this year. Last year's
What do you
jerseys, pain.
all right. So I'm gonna start with some honorable mentions for kind of like the 5th spot. I I don't know what's going on with the New York Islanders alternate jerseys, but I don't like them at all. I don't know, I don't know what they're trying to do. I actually like their classic look, their home and away kits, just because of the history that the team has, and I think you should stick with that if it works. And all the icons that went through that organization, I think you should keep that. But that one's not great. The Winnipeg Jets one, not great. The gloves, the cream gloves, doesn't work. The navy pants with that jersey, I don't love that either. But I'll kind of go back to my bottom five here, or 5 through 2. So I got the Kings at 5, the 2022-23 hits. I think they made the right decision to go back to what they're known for, and their glory days. But what they have right now isn't great. Columbus Blue Jackets, not sure what they were thinking with those. Still don't. Florida Panthers at number 3, they need to go back to the cat that has its claws out. What they're doing right now with the stripe and the little panther doesn't scare anyone. Uh, and then number 2, the Ducks. Everything that we kind of talked about with that one. They need to go back to the Mighty Duck, and they started doing that for this upcoming season. So it's good that they kind of figured that out. I agree with Matt. They were number 32 in the league as far as kits go. But that's my 5 through 2.
I think there was an era of like Reebok jerseys in like 2005 to 2009 that like Columbus and Anaheim and all those teams kind of rode this wave of let's have vertical stripes going down the arms. And I think it was just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, and they never updated it when they switched over to Adidas. That was the problem.
George with just about the worst takes in the group. This is the worst. This is going to be a list of the worst,
Oh,
actually.
you think so? You think so? Here are my honorable mentions. And people have already touched upon it. Columbus Blue Jackets, all 3 sweaters. Disgusting. Gross. Let's throw another one out there. We'll throw the Ducks. 2 out of 3. Their purple sweater with the duck head on it is actually very good. That's actually up on my list. It's in the meh category in my list. But the other 2, the black home and the white away, gross. Let's go to we'll call that number 5. No, we'll go number 5 will be the Panthers. Red and white, neither of it work. Number 4 are going to be the Oilers, the navy and the orange alternates.
I love that jersey.
Oh,
Nope.
I love that jersey.
Does nothing.
Every time I play as the Oilers on the video game, that is my jersey.
That's the jersey you pick?
Yeah. That bears.
No
PTSD
respect.
from that jersey.
Number 3 are the black Devils alternate with the weird jersey script across and the stripes on the sleeves.
I feel like that's a hot take.
He doesn't like the jerseys.
I don't. Number
Even the
2.
simpletons know what it is.
Number 2 is the goat head jersey for the Sabres.
He just doesn't like winning.
Matt, let him have it. Give him the business right now. You're just
No,
gonna let
I mean like
2 people with the worst takes in history go at it right now.
I can see why people don't like it. I understand it doesn't seem as Buffalo is now, right? It was a complete like shift in jersey color and everything. Like I can see why somebody doesn't like the Buffalo Slug, but I personally I think it's a great jersey.
But this isn't the Buffalo Slug. The Buffalo Slug had the arched buffalo. That's the Buffalo Slug. The buffalo head, the goat head is different.
I mean, they're both fantastic. So whatever hole you want to dig yourself in, I'm willing to watch you do it.
I'm out on both. So there you go.
All right, my rankings. I had a pretty clear top 3. I had a little bit of trouble further down than that. I grouped in teams. honorable mention would be the Sabres whites. Not a huge fan there. And the Yotes purple alternate that Matt somehow put in his top 5. The Desert Night is 25,000 times cooler than that one. For me, the bottom tier ended up being the Washington Capitals at 5 and the Columbus Blue Jackets at 4. And then the top tier was pretty differentiated. I do not like the Winnipeg Jets jerseys. I have all 3 of them down towards my bottom, so I'm putting them at 3. Florida Panthers at 2. They don't even have an alternate. There's so many cool things. I guess actually on our list they don't have the alternate. The like beach hockey sticks one, I love that jersey. That would have been among my top, but that was not on the rankings that we used here. But excluding that one, the Florida Panthers have terrible jerseys, and I'll wait for my number 1 just to offset what Matt's about to say. We're gonna go back to let's go bottom 5 number 1 selections, and Matt, your all-time worst jersey.
I know it's been on somebody's top 5 list here, but the Winnipeg light blue jersey with the stripes going all over the place. I think they could have just done it way better. And I think, there's definitely like the rationale behind the history of it. Like I understand that. But if I'm visually just looking at it, I don't even think it like makes it off the shelf. Like I'm looking at like Marshalls or TJ Maxx. I don't even like open to see what's in there. I see what's going on with the sleeves, and I'm like, it's absolutely not something that's going to be near my wardrobe. So, and I think the colors, like they definitely could have done so much better. Right? We've seen light blue Jets jerseys that are gorgeous, and then they pulled this out. So, unfortunately, that's going to be my number 1 on the bottom.
All right. I'll go with my number 1 on the bottom. I have the Capitals. I don't know why they made the switch from the eagle and the black, gold, blue to red and white. I have no idea why they did that, and how they did it makes it 10 times worse. Just having the Capital trying to be fancy, throwing the stick in there for the L. I don't love it. I'm not buying it. I never have. And that's why I have it at the bottom. I think they need to go back to the classics and figure it out.
I will say, really quick, I hate the Caps jerseys as well, but I think the U.S. flag might have something to do with why they went with the colors.
Okay. Okay.
And it might make a little sense there, but I still think they're ugly.
And
yeah,
the
I'm
stars.
sure you're playing.
If you look at the insides of the Capitals jersey, it is pretty stellarly clever. Up there with like the Minnesota Wild bear head with the river and the state flag and all that. The Capitals logo is smart, but I can understand the
I'm not.
missed
Yeah,
tier.
I don't love. Never have. I don't know why.
George,
but
Wait, so you like the black Capitals jersey with the Capitol building on it? You like that disgusting
Yes.
thing?
I love that. Yeah.
All right.
Well, this one's
That
about
would
to
probably
be
be
even
top
worse.
5
This
for
one,
me.
this deserves a drum roll right now. Is the take that George is about to put down? George, your least favorite jersey?
Yeah, Nick, scoot over a little, over your left shoulder. That one, right there. That's my number 1, right there. Yep. It's just why. I despise teams that go black for black's sake, and if you look at the rest of my rankings, all the teams, all the original 6 teams with their original clean looks are all toward the top. The road and home kits for the Maple Leafs are just chef's kiss, right? Same with the Blackhawks, but to massacre something so clean and awesome with that thing is just brutal.
I love it because they throw on this the CN tower on the sleeves and the bottom of it. It's the little things that make the biggest difference.
I just wish they actually they had the kahunas to actually flip them over and wear the Drew side, right? Like the yellow and black side. I think that would like I think George might go into flames if he saw that.
George is-
on the ice
Oh, yeah.
release.
George is the elderly man on the podcast here, and he missed the era of singing Justin Bieber in a fraternity basement. So that's why he has no love for the Biebs. But my worst one fits hand in hand with Matt's best one. So, Matt, I'm going to hand it over to the top 5 now, and you can dual announce my number 1 worst and your number 1 best.
So the whole reason we're doing this is we learned that Ditzel is not a big fan of the Mighty Ducks movie. He thinks Charlie Conway is overrated. He is not a fan of Gordon Bombay. And he also hates the Mighty Ducks jerseys. I think the duck head is just an unbelievable logo. I think they did it great with the purple alternate, but they just step up and above this year, which is what we've been talking about with the new Ducks kits that came out. I think they're going to be going to this year with the best looks of a team. And I think they're going to play towards the bottom still, but I think, and we can talk about, why I think they look great, but I mean, bringing back the old heritage of the logo at the same time of implementing the colors of the new wave of Ducks hockey, I think is a really fantastic move from Anaheim. And again, the all orange look is fantastic. I'm a huge fan of orange as a color. Like, give me a Flyers jersey any day of the week. Like, I'm a Bengals fan in football.
Not
Give
that
me that
orange.
any day of the week.
It is completely a different color of orange. It's burnt orange.
Hey, I'm okay with
It's
any
right up
orange.
there with your crap and cream.
I don't discriminate on my orange tones. Give me Texas orange, give me Tennessee orange, any sort of orange I'm gonna fall in love with. And I think the Ducks did a wonderful job here. Casey, anything?
I hate them. Nick's gonna back me up too.
No, I hate them because they remind me of their older alternate jerseys where it's all orange, but they still have that B logo that they had like this past season as their home and away.
It's literally the exact same jersey with just a little bit different. They also high
it's
key
not good.
ripped off Seattle. They took the Kraken's logo and just turned it into their logo.
What?
What?
What are you doing?
For the new kits? No.
With the eye like sneaky through the duck, the D.
That's their old logo from like 15,
yeah.
20 years ago. It's like the shielded Mighty Duck, like the goalie mask from 1990.
Need to look up the jersey here.
Yeah.
I'll look them up. I love looking at them.
George, you like them.
If anything, the argument could be made that yes, the eye is a ripoff of the Kraken with the eye and the Kraken, but the logo is the duck head, which has been since like the OG logo.
No, it's more the eye that makes me. They ripped off
the eye's the same.
The neon eye is the exact same as the Seattle Kraken's logo, and it just so happens to be 2 years after the Kraken released theirs. That's my thought. All right, we'll move it on. Matt's getting testy over there. Nick?
At number 1, I have the Canucks skate alternate jersey. I love that. I love that scheme that they have. I love every single time that they wear it. And we kind of talked about it before, but them introducing the matte helmets with it, I actually really like that. For them, I don't, but I think the matte black it just accents the jersey really well. It's such a classic look, and it's my all-time favorite.
George, you prepared just for this moment in the background.
I did. It's something that's always there. Is that guy right there? It's hard to argue over a clean white jersey with nice letters across the chest. Simple, right? And it's been that way. It's been that way since they moved away from the crest in the 70s and went with the diagonal lettering across the chest. It's been my favorite ever since.
Ironically, when he was originally putting in his jerseys and he thought this year was on the table, he put Utah Hockey Club as the number 1 worst in his mind.
Yes.
The exact same jersey with different colors.
No.
Slightly cooler.
I'll tell you
cooler colors.
Cooler colors, black and
I love
whatever
the
blue
Utah
Back
that
in
colors.
light blue and white. It
I
is
love
so
them. I
freaking
love
good.
them.
It is so freaking good. You want to talk about a great jersey? Take that over the Ducks all day, every day, 365 a year
I can
Well,
agree
thank God it's a
more.
leap year.
for the next 20 until the Ducks become a poverty franchise again, post rebuild.
I like it's like the Spider-Man meme of like Utah and Anaheim pointing at each other like they're both like calling each other bad when they're both pretty awful franchises. One of them can't even stay in a city, and the other one's been bad since gosh they made the cup in 2007. But
Hockey belongs in the desert. All right.
I
Well,
agree.
I did it
Yep.
right so that I get to close off the honor with the number one jersey and the Dallas Neon Blackout, baby.
No way.
George, you know what's up.
Yeah.
When this jersey dropped, I was salivating. It is such a great jersey. The neon is just so fresh. The black makes it shine. The Stars logo on the front. And I have a slight tear in my eye and a little bit of twinkle in my pocket when I look on DH Gate for brand new jerseys, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Waiting for one of my Clarkson guys to put that one on the wall behind me, but that's gonna be the jersey when one of my guys hits the Dallas Stars lineup.
It's a great jersey, and take it one step further. I'm a gear nerd too. So Otter's mask and pads that complement it when they wear it.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Yep. Wish
Great
I could
spot
see
to
him for
end
the first
show
time
on
again.
before Matt gets to talk here. But
No comment.
gents, it's been a great summer. That finishes off our bi-weekly shows here. And now, starting next week, the Fifth Liners podcast will be coming to you every week as we count down the days to opening night. As this drops, we are inside a month until preseason NHL hockey becomes underway, and an extremely exciting upcoming list of shows that we have for you through the month of September. We are going to be breaking down each of the divisions, the big changes that we've talked about all summer, where that puts each of those teams, and ranking the divisions. And each episode, we're going to have a credentialed NHL guest coming on to join to give their insights and thoughts on certain teams and certain divisions where they will be stacking up. And we will be starting next week with the Metropolitan Division, our first 8 teams up and going to be our first 8 down. And hockey season coming in close here. Matt, you're going to be out on the town and visiting the land of sparkly jerseys coming up here. Big vacation coming, so you'll be snoozing next week.
Yep, I will. I will hopefully have enough money to get myself back to Boston from Vegas. But we'll be there for the weekend. Maybe check the Sphere out, go golfing, and if I see one of those sparkly jerseys out on the street, I'll be definitely sure to let them know that they are not really doing it for me. I've had to make fun of enough people who put those on, so I think one's too many.
But apparently
Yeah.
not Bruins fans with actual sparkles on their sleeves too.
Oh no, I'm again. There's this is just objectivity. There's no subjective opinion in these statements. The Bruins twinkle as opposed to the atrocity that you call the Vegas Golden Knights sparkly jerseys. I think the twinkle is better than the sparkle personally.
We continue to add credibility onto the show here. Matt's credibility goes down to the point that he's been kicked off of the next episode. Nick, you're going back to school here. We'll see you in the classroom pretty shortly. Not too much
Yes,
to look
sir.
forward to this week, buddy.
No, there is not. Just getting the ball rolling yet again for another exciting year up ahead. Yeah, getting ready for it early morning tomorrow, so coming by quick.
Two of the most studious guys on the show here, me and
Oh yeah, academic
about
weapons.
to be masters of education. George, what's going on for you?
I have 6 broadcasts coming up next week, so I'll be pretty busy trying to keep the pipes nice and looped up and warmed up. And I'm excited to get these divisional previews going, and starting off with the Metropolitan. I think here's a big market tease. I think you guys would like who we have lined up for that.
One that hits close to home. Metro is going to be fun to duke it out here. Two of our favorites here, George, the Rangers, and the Carolina Hurricanes, who I think are on the digression. I'm back in the booth as well, but we'll see if I make it there. I got to learn to cook at some point in the next week and maybe figure out how to clean a sweatshirt or two so that I can make it to MBA class financially dressed, as the dress code gets implied. But gents, it's been a pleasure. Matt, so much fun watching you just decimate yourself, buddy. The Ducks jersey isn't going to get any better before opening night here. Again, it's been another episode of the Fifth Liners podcast here. 7 up, 7 down. The summer is over. Episode 8 comes your way next week. Thanks for listening.